Hi everybody, my name is Barry Schwartz and this is Search Buzz Video Recap. Today is Friday, December 13th, and this is the search news we covered over at the Search Engine Roundtable at seroundtable.com. A lot of things to talk about. Maybe the top 5 things that I want to share with you is one, there seemed to be a pretty big Google update around December 11th or so. Google also has expanded BERT to 70 plus new languages and regions. Google also had a bunch of news-related topics, including that Google News no longer has to only include content from sites that applied and are included in Google News. Bing has a lot of Webmaster outreach going on, and we have a new fun SEO game from Lexus Sanders. So stay tuned and listen to the news. All right, first up, earlier in the week, there was some recent Google algorithm chatter related to maybe a possible Google Analytics bug, which is very, very interesting. A lot of discussions around maybe a Google Analytics bug happening earlier in the week, which is funny because it's Bill Lambert guy again. Doesn't make a difference to me if he's real or not. Just who cares? But he's kind of like saying, watch out for big Google Analytics bugs. And then there were these Google Analytics bugs. But on December 12th, I reported about a possible Google update on December 11th, which seems to be true based on the chatter and the ranking tracking tools, and even Bill Lambert's prediction. So we've seen a lot of discussion around maybe starting this late December 10th, happening on December 11th, even potentially through December 12th, which was yesterday. It seems to have calmed down a little bit as of today, Friday, December 13th. But lots and lots of chatter. The tools themselves all pretty much spiking on that last day. If you look at the tools updated even today, you'll see most of them now show even more spikes. And then drop down today on Friday. It definitely spikes. Even SEMrush shows a significant spike on December 11th. And then, of course, we have the Bill Lambert character who goes in there and basically says there was probably an update. You can see over here, you will today or tomorrow after I said, hey, I don't see any signals yet when I commented about it yesterday. And he's commented, you will, just hang on, it'll be in a day or two. And he was right. Again, it doesn't make a difference if he's legit or if he's right, or if he's some type of prophet, or if he's an inside mole at Google. Either way, these updates are going to happen or not, with or without him. Google has now expanded BERT to over 70 plus languages. It was funny because Pedro Diaz, former Googler, said, despite no official word from Google, it seems BERT is now live from other languages. Can you confirm? And Danny's like, I don't think so. And then he's like, well, actually, no. First he said it's only live in languages beyond English for feature snippets, not other things. Then he said, actually, apparently it's out more broadly. I'll share more soon. And then he went ahead and shared, it's live in over 70 languages. Initially launched in October, which we reported about for English. I don't know exactly when it launched in all these other languages, but you can see here all the other languages that are supported. And this even surprised a bunch of Googlers, which is interesting because a lot of Googlers didn't know it was live. So now BERT is powering about 10% or so of queries across multiple languages, not just English, but 70 plus languages. Again, it still only impacts about 1 of every 10 queries. Danny Sullivan confirmed that with this latest rollout, even though it's now international. It still, he said, varies by language, but in general, it's in line with 1 to 10 figures that we shared earlier about the US English results. Google News amounts pretty big news this week as well. I'll try to go through them very quickly because there's a lot of stuff announced here. But one is Google News is now somewhat powered off of BERT and other machine learning. As you can see over here, Google said that we use a variety of machine learning techniques, including BERT models, to examine related articles. With that, they're able to group things better in the carousel. The carousel has a bunch of different features in there, which I'll show you a little bit later. Google also said that submission is not required for inclusion in Google News or to be included in Google News. Publishers no longer need to submit their sites to be eligible for the Google News app and website. Publishers are automatically considered for top stories or the news tab of search. Here's the guidelines over here. As you can see over here, have been changed. Danny also said, it looks like it's changed. You can see here in the Publisher Center, Google automatically considers content published on the web for inclusion for Google News. There's no need to apply. However, the content that complies with overall content policies and requirements will be eligible to appear. And then he lists out the features. So here's the before from the Google blog post, which shows the top stories and the carousel. And as it changes, and here's the after, which basically shows you top stories, a carousel with other things related to this, as well as some news below it. But here, also below, other content related to this also in the news. And there's lots of more categorizations and grouping of stories, not just in the news space, but also in other spaces around Google News, which is pretty cool. Google Speakable Markup, obviously with this news, is now saying that Speakable Markup is not just for Google News sites, it's also for non-news related content, because again, Google could include non-news related content or non-news included content in Google News. With that, obviously Speakable now also works and is no longer restricted, as Danny Sullivan said. Google Speakable is no longer restricted to news content. They'll be updating the documentation on this. However, Speakable Markup isn't guaranteed that it will show up in Google Assistant, and also it's a beta feature. I personally don't think Speakable will last much longer, but we'll see. Google updated the News and Publisher Center from the old version to the new version. So there were some bugs a couple weeks ago, and I guess it's related to Google not updating it, but basically Google, a bunch of things. So first is Google News Publisher Center was updated, and news content could come from the web. And we discussed this already, that content for Google News will now come directly from the web index, I guess, just as search does. And that's all related to what we discussed previously, I believe. And then the Publisher Center was also updated, where there's all these new features that you have in there. It combined two different sections for Google News Publisher Center as well, but I'm not going to go through it in detail. But the Google Publisher Center now can manage, distribute, and monetize your content across the Google properties. If you have multiple publications, you can also manage them efficiently. And I posted a bunch of screenshots of what the Publisher Center looked like before and after. So if you are in the Publisher Center area, you can definitely take a look at that and learn about what has changed. Google's Search Console is now showing more errors, specifically around incorrectly tagging URLs with RDFa and microdata markups. So if you see more errors around that, that's a new feature that Google is actually showing more errors around that. And also Google Search Console for job postings has added some adjustments there for errors. So on December 10th, Google wrote, Search Console now provides more specific errors for types of job postings errors. Therefore, you may see a reduction in the general errors tab, whereas an increase in the more specific categories of those errors. So just keep that in mind with the job posting stuff. Google said they're going to revise the guidelines because of removing, I guess, canonical guidelines and pagination guidelines because Google removed the Next Prev months ago. So this came from both the Google Webmaster Conference in Tel Aviv as well as the Google Webmaster Conference in Zurich. I believe this was mentioned. And Google's going to go ahead and update their guidelines around pagination and canonicalization and so forth because Next Prev has been removed months ago. We'll see when that comes out, but that's something that's coming. Google Translate can also now show pictures when it's doing the translation. So if you want to know what an avocado, when you're translating what an avocado is, Google will go ahead and show you Hebrew to English or English to Hebrew, whatever language, and also show you pictures. Again, we saw this with actual photos as well and dictionary results, so that's pretty cool to see. Google showing more photos there. Google is testing local ads for realtors, so it looks like LSA ads for realtors. This was spotted by Matt McGee, someone I've worked with for years at Search Engine Land. And let me just show you what those ads look like. So you can see over here, Austin Realtors, and it shows you a bunch of realtors in that area. And then you can actually go to local service ads and see more information, which is pretty cool. Google is also testing the local pack with ads, but specifically the ad label is black. The Google has been testing this on mobile for a long time, but now it's actually on desktop, and you can see the desktop results show the black ad label. I believe Google's been testing this with their fave icons on desktop as well for a while, which we've been covering, so I think it's all related. Google's also testing a review carousel within the local knowledge panel. So if you're looking at a specific local business in Google Web Search and Google shows you a local knowledge panel for that business, you can see here Google is showing this related to your search reviews in a carousel, which is pretty cool. It highlights the review based on the query that you used. And that's from Mike Blumenfeld. Bing does do outreach to webmasters. So we know that Google will sometimes reach out to webmasters that have crawling issues or certain types of issues that are preventing Google from indexing and showing that content pretty well. And Bing does the same thing. Frederick DeBoy said that on Twitter that, Bing does this as well, where we receive negative user feedback and determine the root cause as a crawl issue. We will reach out directly to webmasters to let them know. If the emails look like phishing emails, we'll go ahead and update that. But Google, just like Google does, Bing also does outreach to help webmasters that are trying to get their content into the index and Google sees as an issue. Bing will do the same thing when Bing sees an issue. Bing says there's a cost value determined in Bing core ranking improvement. So whenever Bing goes ahead and tries to release a new feature, they always have to think about the scale and cost of that feature release. And with that, they have to go ahead and say, is this ranking improvement something that is has enough value for the cost it involves in doing. Not just the cost to figure out the improvement, obviously Bing's doing that all the time, but to maintain that feature and to run it. If it costs too much in terms of CPU usage or bandwidth or whatever you want to call it, is it worth doing in terms of the value the searcher is going to get from that? Bing also says, when you're using machine learning, you just have to be okay with there being some errors with that, meaning machine learning is always not going to be perfect, and because of that, you have to be okay with your results not being perfect. So in cases like medical areas where, or flights and certain information that you can actually die from, of course they can't use machine learning in a way that they know the outcome won't 100% be perfect. But when it comes to like search, where it's not life and death, always, it's okay to not be perfect. And because of that, machine learning has an error rate. And with that, it might be mostly positive and mostly beneficial to search results, but there may be some cases that are not perfect, and you have to be okay with that to implement machine learning. Rounding down, there was a fun SEO game, a role-play game, RPG game, released by Alexis Sanders from Merkle, and it's really cute. She put a game together with a bunch of SEO personalities, and you go through the steps, and you have to answer SEO liquidity questions. The questions are great. Each SEO question, I believe, was answered or helped by the personality they use, so it's pretty cool. Definitely play it. It's at technicalseo.guru. Fun game to play. I haven't really had time to play it yet, but hopefully I will soon. And finally, I posted the vlog this week with Ben Cook, who I've known in the industry since the early 2000s. Somebody who I was fairly chatty with in the SEO forums and so forth. We talked about the early days, the Proficient acquisitions, and SEO site migrations in terms of major enterprise stuff related to that. Any event, thanks so much for listening to the Search Buzz video recap. My name again is Barry Schwartz. This is search news we covered over at the Search Engine Roundtable at seroundtable.com over the past week. Again, my name is Barry Schwartz, and today is Friday, December 13th. Everyone have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys next. Goodbye.